native Detroit tongue. What up, though? Everywhere I go across the country, I tend to use that as an introduction. It's kind of like the icebreaker.
Okay.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you guys and share some of my insight. Father God says a special gift. What I recognize with myself is that I have a PhD in my experience. I graduated with that in flying colors. And so to understand youth, I think we have to really broaden ourselves, because sometimes we tend to put youth in their own lanes or their own islands. But we become neglectful to the fact that youth are a product of something that's helped shape them negatively or positively, which is that something is their neighborhoods, their churches, their schools, more importantly, their parents. And so we cannot disconnect the two if we really and truly want to help you. To give you guys a little bit about myself, as Father Don mentioned, the struggle that my mother went through with my grandmother to give birth to me, which didn't mention that passage. My mother was 15 years old when she found herself pregnant with me. My father was 17 years old. So you can just about imagine their development, their mind state, and probably what would influence my grandmother at the time to say, no, you're not ready to have a child. Unfortunately, when I came to the world, my parents had separated. To this day, I never remember seeing them together. By the time I came to the world, they went on their own separate ways. And that had an impact on me, because every other man that I seen in my mother's life was very abusive. It was guys that she had dated from the streets. My mother was a very young, attractive woman who had limited educational skills, who had limited social skills. Again, we understand a lot of our communities, whether black, white, or brown, we find ourselves dealing with certain social circumstances to make it. First law of nature is self-preservation. You're going to preserve yourself to the best of your ability. A lot of times, many of us are so removed from a lot of people that we don't see those things and forget that we have been in those same positions at one point in our lives. So my mother engaged in the street life, and all those things that she was engaging in, I was engaging in as well. Not necessarily directly, but indirectly. Here I was, a boy who loved his mother dearly, who was ready to fight the men that jumped on his mother. I'm a baby, a boy, what really can I do? So all the abuse and the hurt that she's taking, I'm taking that abuse and that hurt as well. And so as our relationship grew, a wedge came between the two of us, because I didn't have my father in my life. So that made it twice as hard, because a child is a product of two. A man and a woman. Necessarily didn't mean he had to live in a house, but definitely he had to be involved, or some men had to be involved. And I had a front row seat to gangsters, thugs, and hustlers, to watch the activity they did. And during that time, I didn't know them as gangsters, thugs, and hustlers. I knew them as colorful names such as Doc Strange, Sawed-Off. These are the characters that I looked up to. These are the characters that helped shape me and also mold this characteristics within me that had an urge to come out. And it created a conflict, because the streets now began to coherent. It began to have a negative influence, which at that time I thought was positive. And a lot of that became because of the relationship my mother started to build with alcoholism as a coping mechanism to the things that she was going through her life. So as a mother, as a parent that's raising this boy in this urban jungle, who's determined not to lose me to a statistics, she's disciplining me. And her form of discipline will be after she had been drinking, so it became excessive. And again, I was dead wrong, and I needed whippings, but I didn't need beatings. And those were two different things. And so those beatings that my mother invested in me, I began to invest in other people in my neighborhood. So getting in trouble, being violent, became therapeutic to a young man that was searching to make sense of the confusion, of the anger and things. So, and all these are a direct byproduct of my community, are a direct byproduct of relationship with my mother. By the age 15, I had co-founded a gang in the city of Detroit. By the age 15, my bodily behavior had began to turn inward in my house. The guys I'm gang banging with now come to my house shooting up, I'm sorry, not my house, my mother's house, shooting up her house, throwing fire bombs at her house. You know, here's the guys I mentioned earlier that I'm sworn to protect them, but the question is who's protecting them from me? But I'm so ignorant to what's going on. I'm clueless. And the thing of it is, I didn't realize, like, ignorance, there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. It only means not to know. But when you make ignorance a way of life, then it becomes wrong. I made ignorance a way of life through gang banging, just not caring. But again, that was a path I walked because of low self-esteem. It was a path I walked because I was searching for things, and the things I was searching for was love, but I found unhealthy love that produced me to behave in an unhealthy way. So my mother made one of probably the most toughest decisions that she had to make in her life, when she made me a ward of the state at the age of 15. Again, and that decision was to save me from myself. So again, coming back full circle to where we are today. If we want to help children, we also want to have to put in place programs to help the parents. Mm-hmm. There was no organization that my mother can go talk to. Mm-hmm. There was no pastors. There was no city council. She was left to deal with this ordeal by herself. So now, when we fast forward in the American prison system here in the United States of America, we have over 2.5 million people incarcerated. Over 2.5 million people incarcerated. We lead the world in incarceration. To even bring those numbers back home. Here in the state of Michigan, in the early 80s, there was only close to 10 prisons. Moving from the early 80s to the 90s, it went from 10 prisons to 50 prisons.
Wow.
So imagine you look at that population. Now we're not even talking about the juvenile population. Prison is a temporary fix. Prison is not set up to deal with emotional baggage that I had inherited, that other young men and young women are carrying in their lives that's producing them to not necessarily do criminal things, but just to do bad things. Now they become labeled as criminals. And now they begin thrown away into this criminal environment where they become career criminals because of there's nothing in place to help them. Fortunately for me, when I went to prison for a crime I didn't do, I met my father there, who had abandoned me, who had left me to be co-parented by the streets. I knew of him prior to going to prison, but I knew of him as the spawn learner. I knew of him as the guy who said, I'm going to do this and do that, but never do anything. But as a father, that's who I met in prison. And he looked at me in my eyes and said, the greatest gift that a parent can give their child is their precious time. And up to this point, I've neglected you in doing that. But from this day on, there's nothing in this world will stop me from giving you and investing my time. And every boy wants to be like their father. And here was a final opportunity for me to be like my father in a positive way. And he painted a picture of who I could become. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. He taught me how to go inside and heal my broken heart. And remove that anger, remove that hurt out of my heart. So out of that came a Yusef Shakur and left a JoJo behind. So no longer was I subjected to see the world through the eyes of a thug. Now I saw the world through the eyes of a human being that demanded of me to behave like a human being. So when I come back to my community, I'm coming back as a man with a mission, as a vision. But these are things that I'm standing on the shoulders of people who've done this work before me. But prior to that, I didn't know that this work was necessary, and it was an obligation to do this work of improving our community, of saving our community, of loving our community. If I had died at the age of 20, my legacy would have been a gang member. My legacy would have been a predator. At the age of 20, I read one of the most profound books ever. It was called Black Women in White America. And it talked openly and brutally about the experience of being a black woman going through slavery. How the babies was cut out their stomachs. And all the gruesome terrorism that they experienced. And I cried myself to sleep that night. Because that information was powerful. So when we look at young people, when we look at the information that they have no clue of who they are. So it's easy to become a thug. It's easy to become a hoochie mama. All these things that is very attractive to them. But where we fail in today's time is not preparing them to deal with society. Because the issues that we're talking about, these are not our issues. These are societal issues. And many of you are old enough to be my grandmother and things of that nature. You remember a time where you grew up different. You was taught different. You was prepared different. So now what we've done, we've given our children this entitlement mentality. You know, we pacify them with cell phones. We pacify them with the Michael Jordan shoes. But we have not prepared them for the real world. And it's coming back to bite us. Each and every one of us, we tasted it in some form or some fashion. So our kids are inheriting anger. Our kids are inheriting hurt. And they're too young and undeveloped to rationalize it. So they turn to drugs. They turn to this life of crime. And they think this is the solution. It's not a solution. It's destruction. But destruction becomes a way of life when you have no purpose in your life. In Africa, in certain parts of Africa, the concept is that all men are fathers and all women are mothers. They don't use the language such as aunts and uncles in certain parts of Africa. That is something that we have to adopt and introduce in our community. Because what that tells me and tells all of us that every child is responsible to each and every one of us. So it's a slogan that I introduced some years back called Restoring the Neighbor Back to the Hood. It's simple. Us being neighborly with each other. You all know what that feels like. When you walked up the street, you was able to go get some rice and the kids can go and play and just enjoy themselves. Despite the social issues of the climate that was going on. It forced us to love each other even more. It forced us to protect each other even more. But now, because we think everything's good, we've let our guards down. And letting our guards down, we have exposed our children to things that they're not prepared for. We have lowered the standard in our community. When we talk about like education for our children, and what happened, and you all remember when your daddy or your grandmother, they couldn't read. But they inspired and pushed their children to do what? Graduate from high school. To graduate and go on to college. Why? Because they had a moral education. They had a moral responsibility to demand the best of their children, despite the poor quality of life that they had been given. It was no excuse to not succeed. There was no excuse to not go walk 10 miles to school, or 10 miles to go to work, or go up north and make sure the money went back down south to bring your family. There was a different educational system that was in part of our community. So again, when we look at housing and being more inclusive to young people, we have to be more inclusive to what they really face. Because if the question is, why are young people the way they are, then we're not really prepared to serve them. So because the question should be, why is it we allow the society that they grow up in to be the way it is? Mm. Why is the society they're growing up in to be the way it is? And when you have parents who are bum rushing Foot Locker to make sure a child has $200 pair of shoes, and in reality they can't even afford it. Hmm. But they're willing to go that length to make sure their child has this materialistic thing. So at the end of the day, we're all being pimped in some form or some fashion.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about this monster of capitalism and how it devalues us as human beings. Our greatest wealth that we have is our relationship to each other. And that helps us foster and develop children that will go on to do great things, despite not working or despite maybe not having money. I had a conversation with my youngest son, he's 9, and he was like, "Dad, if I get 100 on my test, would I be a nerd?" And I'm like, "What is a nerd, son?" Like it's someone that's smart. And he said, well, I don't want to be considered a nerd because I don't want to be bullied. And so I was like, well, you want to be, kids gonna pick on you whether you're smart or not. And I was like, your dad's a nerd, right? He's like, yeah, you're right, you nerd with all the nerd books you got. But the point is that I've built a relationship with my son where he felt open to share that with me, to have this conversation. Because again, when kids are by themselves, God knows what they're talking about. God knows what they're doing. And a lot of things they're talking about and doing is from what? Emulating us. Emulating how we talk with each other. Emulating how we smoke cigarettes and all those things. When kids are shaped by us, they're absorbing it all the time. So, in fixing kids, we have to fix ourselves. We are their greatest teachers. We are their greatest examples. It's simple with that. And one of the things that we have to recognize too, there's enough blame to go around to blame for all of us. So we have to stop the blame them. Stop blaming the teachers. Stop blaming the pastors. When we set our responsibility that we all are accountable for our communities, for our church, and for our schools to be better. And once we can do that, we can move our young people forward to lead us. Not us lead them, but them lead us. But we have to prepare them. The greatest relationship that came out of me and my father was not the fact that he tried to mold me to be him, but he gave me the space to mold myself to be me. He just painted a picture where we disagreed on many